So she has been, on the whole, very supportive. Putting on the hijab, well, it was difficult enough for me, I felt at the time, but she found it extremely difficult. But she's now accepted it, and she would never say it. She's 16, and it would be very uncool to say it, but I think that she's quite proud of me, which is nice. And she is very happy to bring her friends home to meet me. She was baptized as a Christian, and I haven't tried to convert her. I've told people, look, Islamically, I'm 5 years old. I've still got a lot to learn about this faith, and so I can't push something onto my daughter that I'm still learning about. And the reality is, there's no compulsion in Islam. There's no compulsion in the religion. And I'm quite relaxed because she's still conscious. I said before, there is very, very little that actually separates us. And at the end of the day, you know, we believe in the one God. And that, to me, is very important. One thing that I am becoming quite alarmed about is the influence of Darwinism in schools, and it hasn't really impacted on her. I think it's you know, that it's very important that we all have a belief. And recently I was on a boat going to Gaza. It was a boat which was trying to break the siege, and it was the first boat to reach Gaza in more than 40 years, and there were a lot of secularists on the boat, and some of them were a little, they weren't openly sarcastic, but they tried to undermine me and my faith several times. I'm sure we've all encountered these difficulties from both in the Muslim and the Christian community, where secularists for some reason feel very threatened by our belief. And when they tried to undermine me, I said, look, you know, we're going on this mission. We could be targeted, we could be bombed by the Israelis. And I said, and I promise you something, I said, if we are bombed and our ship goes down, there'll be no atheists on board, because you'll all start praying.
Any other question? So,
my name is Sultan Muhammad. It's really been a privilege, I think, to have listened to yourself, Sister Yvonne, because I think many Westerners, and I'll include myself in that, we believe that faith is very personal. But in Islam, of course, faith can be public as well. So thank you for sharing your personal life with us today, and I feel really privileged that I've heard this firsthand. I'd really like to know what modifications, what changes you've had to make to your lifestyle, you know, your life before your visit to Afghanistan to becoming a Muslim.
Well, I mentioned before I was a practicing Christian. I used to go to St. James's Church in Piccadilly maybe twice a month, which in secular Britain is bordering on fanaticism in itself. So when I did embrace Islam, it did, there was quite a change in my diet. I cut out alcohol. I dressed slightly more modestly. I mean, as a journalist going out and about, you know, you're judged very much on your appearance, and so it's better to have a conservative dress anyway. So that wasn't I've told people, you know, my little black dress went into a big black dress. The hardest part for me was putting on the hijab, which took more than a year after I converted. But one of my biggest successes and I mentioned the hijab before, it's better than any nicotine patch, was to quit smoking. And so that was, so I'm much more healthier now, and it's just this, what I've done is I've now got a more disciplined, healthy lifestyle, and so I feel much more. Obviously, I'm better for it. My parents are delighted that I stopped drinking and smoking, but they, when my father was alive anyway, they were, the hijab was the biggest obstacle in the family, because you mentioned before that religion is a private thing, and very few of my friends on Fleet Street knew that I was a Christian. People never talked about religion. Journalists are a cynical bunch, and they run away from religion, not just Islam, any sort of religion freaks them out. And as a practicing Christian, I wasn't hiding it, but how can you tell a Christian? It's very difficult to identify a Christian. But the moment I put on the hijab, I immediately was propelled into the front lines, having to short sword fight in defense of Islam. And I think one of the reasons that it took me so long to put the hijab on was that I didn't feel confident enough to be able to stand up for my faith and answer different accusations that were levelled at me. It can be quite intimidating for new Muslims, and for some reason people expect converts to Islam to be experts in the field, when in fact we're just the same as anybody else. We struggle the same. We are learning all the time.
Gentleman behind first.
Hi, I'm Martin. Can I just say, I can't believe it's 50 minutes, because it felt like about 5 minutes you were talking for, so thank you very much. You've mentioned a couple of times that you were a committed or practicing Christian, and I know until I got a lot of Muslim friends, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what a practicing Muslim compared to nominal or more secular Muslim was, and I just wonder if you could explain what it meant to you to be a practicing Christian before you converted.
Well, that's there's no sort of as long as I rolled up to church once a week, or I made it twice a month, and as I say, that in some people's eyes is bordering on fanaticism. To me, being a practicing Christian wasn't just about turning up to church. It was also about practicing what Christian deeds and Christian acts, and carrying out the way that you behave. Again, there's no pressure on you as a Christian. I mean, you can be bad-tempered. We all have our off days. You can do something that maybe isn't very Christian, and nobody's going to turn around and say, "Look at that Christian," because nobody knows, that you're a Christian or not. But as soon as you put on a hijab, it's like having a flashing light on your head, and as soon as I have an off day, it's, oh, she's having an off day. It's, oh, that Muslim woman, did you hear that, or did you see that? And so that there's a different pressure. But I felt that to be a practicing Christian wasn't just about going to church, but it was then practicing the whole business of Christianity, and the good deeds and the good behaviour and the humanity and the forgiveness. I always stumbled over the forgiveness at times, and I still have challenges as a Muslim. So I still have the same difficulties. And like a Muslim, some days I would take a few steps forward and think, yeah, that's going to get me closer to the pearly gates, and then other days I would think